Right, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast and welcome to another League One roundup on this Sunday morning. So much to dive into today. 4 selected games, and of course we'll be going around the grounds at the end of the episode as well. Please do leave a like and subscribe on the road to 4.5 thousand subscribers. Incredible stuff. Be part of the journey. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell as well. That way you'll be notified when I go live or do a recorded episode just like this one. Join the Discord server for ongoing conversation. You can continue that conversation in the comment section down below as well. I'll be replying and responding to all of your thoughts as I always do. But how are you feeling? How do you reflect? This is a reflection, this is a roundup, but how do you reflect on this weekend in Sky Bet League One? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's start with Oxford United against Bristol Rovers. So it finishes Oxford United 0, Bristol Rovers 3. The XG for the game 0.91 to a Bristol Rovers XG of 1.27. This was the final straw for the Oxford United hierarchy, who since has sacked head coach Carl Robinson, he has left the football club with immediate effect. That came through this morning. You can watch my instant reaction to that news on the channel right now. I don't want to repeat myself. I'm not going to repeat myself, so you can watch my thoughts solely on the manager situation on the channel. So a double upload day, double excitement, some would say. Not if you're an Oxford fan. I wouldn't call it excitement. 2 very negative stories coming out of the football club in the last 24 hours. But the early kickoff in League One was these two clubs going head-to-head. It wasn't great from an Oxford point of view. From Bristol Rovers, I imagine you're over the moon. A really good result, a convincing away performance to end the rut that you were on. And that probably was a big reason why there's been so much fallout from an Oxford perspective as well, because the Bristol Rovers form coming into this was just as bad. And to lose this convincingly against a side like that is a big statement, a huge statement, and not a good one whatsoever. I've never seen a bunch of players lose confidence like that when going 1-0 down. We gave away a penalty. Cameron Brannigan, who has been a very consistent performer during the Carl Robinson tenure, and somebody that I think has got a really good relationship with the manager, but did come out after it, didn't really back him after the game, which probably says quite a lot about the dressing room as well. But there was so much talk going into it about the whole Elliot Moore captaincy situation. He's no longer the captain of Oxford. There's a change in captaincy. It's sort of, there was so much going on before it. And then when it did kick off, the confidence just was absolutely just sapped out of the players. Absolutely sapped out of the players. And you could just see in their faces, their body language, they were just done. They looked done. And they can't be done because we are in a relegation dogfight. We are in a huge amount of trouble. And we've got to get ourselves out of that trouble. The new manager hopefully is going to help us do that. But the players, they're the people. They get paid to go over that white line in the words of Brannigan, and put in a performance that is ultimately much better than what we've seen in the last couple of weeks. I think it's 8 wins, 8 games without a win. Horrendous. I think it's 5 clean sheets in 50 games. Disgusting. And yesterday was a really, really bad performance. And also, the players have to take responsibility. I wish I'd said it actually in that video, so I'll say it now. The players should also take as much responsibility as Robinson. Of course, he's the manager. He loses his job. He gets sacked. He has done. But this, again, the players' body language was just... There's a lack of... I don't doubt that they look like they didn't care. They look like they didn't care at points. And that is... Or they look like they've given up. And maybe not care. Maybe that's harsh. But certainly given up. And that's a massive problem. A huge problem. You can see the first goal. It was Sinclair who scored it from the penalty spot. 22nd minute. Definite penalty. There were a couple of chances before that, actually. There was actually one, I think, after the penalty. It might have been before it. I think it was Joseph in the near post. He had a really good chance. But... Aaron Collins scored. There's a replica of that, but in the wrong net, or his net, not our net. Well, unfortunately, it was our net, but you know what I'm trying to say. Joseph missed one, really big chance, and then Aaron Collins goes up the other end. Too easy down the right-hand side, ball into the penalty area, flicked into the back of the net. Nothing you really do about it. Sinclair with the assist as well. He had a really good game. A really good game as well. And... yeah, I think it gets worse. A corner, Luca Hall in the 75th minute. That was pretty much dead and buried at that point. It felt dead and buried then. It sort of felt as if the game was done, and also Robinson's tenure was done. I remember looking over to him for the third goal, and his head was just in his hands. He just looked at the floor, and the whole feeling just of potential chance of him surviving just went in that instance. And of course, it's not nice. It really isn't nice. And him losing that game in that manner is the reason why he's no longer the manager of the football club. Injuries in there as well to make it even better. Sam Baldock, Marcus Brown, 2 players that are pretty much in the bracket of injury prone. I'm pretty confident in saying that. Are both going to be injured and came off injured as well. Did that help the game? No. But at the same time, that isn't the reason why we lost it. They're just added issues. But coming back to a key player, I thought St Clair had a really good game for Bristol Rovers. I thought he did. I thought he was lightning down that right-hand side. Of course, he brings experience. He brings a real level of creativity. He scored the goal from the penalty spot. But the assist for Aaron Collins' goal to make it 2-0 only 6 minutes later was really, really good. And they just ran us ragged. They did run us ragged. And we couldn't get a foothold in the game. We just couldn't gain control. We looked like we had not played football in our lives before. And that is really worrying. You know, you sort of look at... Players sort of looking at each other and it was like, I don't know either. I don't really want the ball. No one was showing options. It was, Stuart Finney or Elliot Moore can have it at the back. And by the way, Stuart Finney coming back in. Abracadabra, he's back in the side. He comes back in and then you're sort of looking up. He's trying to find, is Cameron Brannigan going to drop deep to get it? Is he going to try and... Is Lewis Bate going to come and collect the ball and try and drive like we know he can do? But they weren't even coming to want the ball. Everyone was a bit scared to want the ball. It didn't help when you've got fans, and I 100% get it, and I think it was the right decision for the fans to hear their thoughts, and I was certainly there showing that I don't think this is the way forward. But when you've got the fans definitely showing their displeasure, that isn't always easy. I'm not blaming the fans for the result, by the way. Definitely not. But that isn't easy, and that is an extra problem that the players had to face. But we sort of certainly get behind these players now. No doubt about it. We've got to get behind these players now, and they've got to dig in. They've got to dig in and find confidence from somewhere. Is that going to be the no manager, new manager bounce? I don't know. It's weird saying that. It is really weird saying that. I'm not entirely sure. Briefly looking at the league table then, it doesn't look much better for Oxford. Only piece of positivity that came out of yesterday was no team below us won their game. You can see the form, the final result for all of them. Of course, we're going from right to left. No side below Oxford got a result yesterday. A couple of draws in there, but no 3 points, and that's what matters right now. But the big thing is we're in a relegation battle, and we are in trouble. And Eastwood said it himself, and Brannigan sort of said it, but Eastwood's direct quote was, "We're not as good as we think we are." That's a very damning statement, and I think it is true. Rovers, that win now sends up to 13th, and just like that with how open it is in League One, one good result, you're straight back in that mix of mid-table, where you probably would have felt Bristol Rovers would be at the start of the season anyway. Of course, a very bad run coming into this one, but a really good result for them. 2 shots on target. Let's just move away. Let's forget this game ever happened, because it was really bad, and of course there has been change since it, but lessons have to be learned, so a bit of a contradiction there. Don't remember it because it was so bad, but this feels like rock bottom. It was rock bottom. This has to be the turning point from now on. So Portsmouth 4, Cheltenham 0. It did have 4-0 written all over it. The XG for the game 0.99 to Cheltenham's 0.59. Pompey with an XG of 0.99 scored 4 goals. A very low XG, but the goals they scored were really, really good. I've watched the goals back. I've watched the extended highlights of the match back as well. Some brilliant strikes and some brilliant, well-worked goals. You can see what John Mousinho is trying to do in an attacking sense. Right now, the movement is exceptional. The way that the flick for the second goal, even the intelligence of the quick free kick for the first goal is really, really switched on. And now the confidence is building. I don't want to bring it back to Oxford, although if John Mousinho does fancy a return to Oxford as a manager, I'm open to it. I don't think he is, though, and not many Pompey fans would be either. I'm joking. Not really. I'd like it. Not going to happen. But what I'm trying to say is the confidence of when John Mousinho came in was rock bottom for Pompey, and that's similar to what has got to happen at Oxford. Now you can see Portsmouth are playing with comfort, playing with ease, and there's a bit of freedom. There's a bit of freedom about them. They look like there was a bit of a complicated problem when Gianni Cowley was there, and that's what one of the players said. There maybe a potential overcomplication with the tactical elements of it, when actually playing with freedom can be so effective. And you can see, I don't doubt there is a tactical element to a game. You don't win 4-0 with no tactical effect from the manager, but you can see that going forward they're playing some really good stuff. And I want to highlight the second goal in particular. I thought the movement then ran onto it, a really good finish for that. But even the first goal, quick free kick, like I said, the intelligence was good, the layback special as well, and Ryan Tunnicliffe with a really good strike. And he was a player, Ryan Tunnicliffe, who was almost laughed out of a chance of being a regular player in this Pompey side. When John Mousinho came in, he was one that was like, yeah, I think he'll start this game, because I think Thompson was injured at the time. Thompson will come in, or I think they've got Lowry, who is he on the bench? No, I think he's still unavailable and has been for a large part of the season. He'll come in, doesn't matter, don't worry about Ryan Tunnicliffe. He'll go very quickly. But actually, he looks reformed. He looks really, really good under Mousinho, and right now, maybe, I think in a double pivot with Joe Morale. I think that system works really well with him. He's got that sort of security with Morale there, but also him playing a little bit deeper. Although he scored a goal and got an assist, Morale can go forward. He has that confidence in him and his midfield partner, but also the whole team is clicking really well right now. But I thought he had a really good game. His sort of numbers in the game do back that up. But also I think his influence generally was good and has been for the last couple of weeks. Curtis was a really good goal. He did shush the Cheltenham fans at 3-0, but that's Ryan Curtis for you. And like I said, the last goal, Thompson, you can see why the XG was so low. A great strike from Thompson. I mean, the goalkeeper sort of flapped it a little bit. Not quite sure what he was doing, Luke Southwood. It's a good strike. I'm not down the good strike, but it was a little bit... It was at him. It was at him a little bit. I think he was too far off his line. It was a strange goalkeeping. Maybe I'm being too harsh on him. It was a good strike from Thompson, but it did look a little bit like he could have done better. But there we go. I mean, he did better than I would. I'll be quite frank in saying that. Probably should do a little bit better. You can see where that goal came right outside the penalty area. A really good goal for Thompson. He does deserve that. Of course, been out injured for a long period of time. But yeah, I think it comes down to now Pompey in their groove, and Pompey feeling their groove now, and they look like they're sort of getting somewhere under Mousinho. Not that they weren't when he first came in, but I think now we're starting to... I think Tom's mentioned it before. Having a convincing result against the side. This had the potential for it to be that. It did. I think Cheltenham are struggling. In fact, we'll look at the league table now. That result does not do them much good. 33 points. They are only 2 points away from the drop zone. But it was never going to be easy because Cheltenham were going to play deep. They were going to try and play as many men behind the ball and soak up the pressure. If they were going to score, it was going to be a counter-attack or a set piece. And I think that was quite obvious going into it. But Pompey... 64% possession, very dominant, only allowed them to only have one shot on target, which is very good. Allowed them to only have an XG of 0.59, again suggests they were very good defensively and dominated the game. In fact, the momentum graph in front of you here, in the first half in particular, wiped the floor. No attacking chance for Cheltenham. Couldn't get into the game whatsoever in an attacking sense, and had to defend for the majority of it, and they weren't able to. 4-0 suggests that it did come quite badly. In fact, a really good spell. Talk about a 25-minute spell. That is it, isn't it? First 25 minutes, very, very good. First half an hour was just unstoppable from Pompey. And that'll be music to the ears of those fans at Portsmouth. But there we go, 4-0 to Portsmouth. Cheltenham, a little bit of concern there. Of course, losing to Portsmouth at Fratton Park isn't the end of the world. But in that manner, there's a problem there. So, Barnsley 4, Derby County 1. The XG for the game, 1.45 to Derby's 0.77. One word comes to mind when breaking down this Derby County performance: mistakes. Mistake central from Derby County. You can see by looking at that league table, Barnsley now leapfrog Derby. Derby in 6th, Barnsley in 5th. Really good form from Michael Duff's side. 4 straight wins, but Derby quite inconsistent in the last 5. This result is a big blow. A really, really big blow indeed. You can see, statistically, the XG 1.45 to Derby 0.77 when it comes to expected goals. You can see by looking at the graph here, fairly equal. In fact, Derby is more blue than there is green, isn't there? But even statistically, in fact, the possession is heavily towards Derby, 60% to 40%. The same amount of shots, the same on target, but the horrendous mistakes, the game-changing mistakes were the reason why Derby got battered when looking at the scoreline. Horrendous defending for the first goal, shambolic. No one could defend their own penalty area from a Derby perspective. And I think Barnsley made it really easy, made it look really, really easy. Highlight player, definitely Devante Cole. I thought he looked really lightning. He has done all season, but I think the way that for the second goal in particular, I think it is the second goal, the one he scored, is the first goal. It might be the third goal, actually. I think it was the third goal. He sort of picked up, he had the ball originally. He sort of used his great dribbling ability to move and weave his way through the Derby County back line and midfield, laid it off, and then a bit of a bumble, again, poor defending, you'd say, and then a really good finish for the third goal. I think it was the third, because he scored 2 on the afternoon, but I think he was really good, and I think that Barnsley side capitalised on so many problems that Derby were made. It was a self-made nightmare from a Derby point of view. And that's when they're going to look back now and go, yeah, the reason why we got battered here was because we were very, very silly. Joe Wilsmith for the 4th goal. I mean, the game was done probably at 3-1 in injury time like that. It probably is done, but no excuses for the mistake you make there. I mean, that is just confidence, pressure. I don't know what it is, but that is just lack of intelligence. But I don't doubt that because he has been good all season. Whatever it is, that is an awful mistake. an awful mistake. And to give it to them, to score the goal, Luke Thomas to make it 4, it's just, it sums up their afternoon, really. It did sum up their afternoon. Of course, McGoldrick just got a really good chip, really delicate finish to make it 2-1, and maybe at that point, 2-1, 35 minutes gone, you think, right, Derby could get into this game. And I think when I saw it come through, obviously we had the early kick off Oxford, so I was sort of keeping quite a good close eye on these games. I thought 2-1 McGoldrick, and that sort of time in the game, I thought there's still definitely time, and Derby have got the quality to certainly do it. But when I saw 3-1 and then 4-1 at the end, I thought, what's happened there? I watched the game in extensive highlight back, and of course the goals back. You can see why it happened, because there are so many problems from a defensive perspective. I've written down here, Derby County mistake central. What on earth was going on? Yeah, it was not a good afternoon from Paul Warne's side, and maybe going forward now, is this going to be a potential derailer? I hope not, from a Derby, to put myself in Derby shoes. I hope it isn't, because they have had a good season, and considering where they were only a couple of months ago, probably a little bit longer than that, but generally where they have been as a football club, you want them to be in the top 6 for that reason. You do, don't you? And I think Derby fans are behind their side in thinking that. But the last 5, it's a little bit worrying. Thankfully for them, Wycombe lost, so maybe if you look at the sides below them, there isn't that massive sort of competitivity, and maybe that top 6 will be that top 6 coming into the season. Still a long way to go, but it's looking like it could be, it could well be. But the order of that top 6 is just as important, and to lose to Barnsley like that, problems you'd say. That can't happen again, and that'll be Paul Warne's message. Some of them were awful. You can see where the goals came in terms of the shot map there. The goal came from, I think, there was this goal here, wasn't it, McGoldrick? A really good, delicate finish, and the game was potentially back on them, but it shifted. Derby huffed and puffed in the last couple of minutes, but then, when you're huffing and puffing, you've got to score, and when you don't score, the confidence is at rock bottom, and like I said, that Will Smith mistake is very, very costly, but it finishes Derby County away from home, losing 4-1 to Barnsley. 4-1, the final score there. So Charlton 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1. The XG for the game 0.43 to Sheffield Wednesday's 1.56. Should we give Sheffield Wednesday the title now? Is it all wrapped up on the 26th of February? Mathematically, it's not. There's still a lot of time. But this performance, once again, is so professional. And I said it, a month ago in that video, mentality. Sheffield Wednesday have got a mentality right now where they feel fearless. They feel absolutely fearless on the top of the world when it comes to confidence in terms of form. The results are really helping that, but the performances are also a huge boost as well. Defensively, very, very good. Once again, only one side was going to win this game, although it was 1-0. There were other chances, dominated the game. You can see by looking at the graph there as well, and the XG of 1.56. Only one side was going to win this match. Charlton, a few moments, but generally, Wednesday, they're much better side, and quality told once again. And I feel as though, every time I say that, I feel like I'm disrespecting the opposition when Sheffield Wednesday play a game, but it's not. I think a lot of the time, it's Wednesday just showing what they can do best, and that's being so solid, so professional, and looking like they go into every single game with a level of comfort. And right now, Darren Moore has created in that side. He's created that formula. And I come back to the word mentality. It's that dogged mentality. Defensively, they feel very, very comfortable. But going forward as well, they take those chances. You can see the side that was played. For me, it's their strongest side. Maybe Marvin Johnson comes in. I know he's having a few issues. I think he's getting banned for an FA charge has come through. So Brown starts at left wing back, but Palmer on that side with Iorfa, Flint and Famueo. In terms of ability, in terms of players available, you probably would say that's their strongest side. I know there are defenders missing in there. But Byers, Volks and Bannon certainly are my favourite midfield 3. So balanced. Byers are the more box-to-box. Barry Bannon, and we know what he can do. A big part in the goal. The captain. Volks more defensive. And you can see it rating of 6.8. Probably a little bit harsh, but didn't have to do much from a defensive point of view, breaking up the play. And then Michael Smith and Josh Windass, a huge part of their attacking quality. Josh Windass, a creative player, but also someone who can score goals. Michael Smith, a big, strong, back-to-goal type of striker any side would like to have. And I think as a two, they complement each other really, really well. First goal came from Liam Palmer in the 9th minute. So easy. So easy. I watched it back. It was such a simple Palmer goal. Nobody was marking him. He sort of had the opportunity for the ball to come into him. He had time to look up, take a touch, and almost just place it where they wanted it to. Place it where he wanted it to, and that is it's a problem for Charlton, but so easy, and made it look so easy from a Sheffield Wednesday point of view. But who was marking Liam Palmer? I don't know. I hope someone was, because, no one was. I hope someone was meant to, because otherwise I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Ness, Innes and Hectorman at that back 3, but for that goal, it's like a back no one. There was no one at the back there. But yeah, I think Wednesday now, they look in control. They can control the game. They look in control of this league, ultimately. And right, you just sort of feel as though whoever they come up against, they're going to give a really, really hard time to. And defensively, they're going to be really good. And I think going forward, you feel they're going to take those chances as well. You can see by looking at the heat map, the average positions. Charlton's so compact, really compact. Sheffield Wednesday, much more spread out. That's what happens when you have a high amount of possession. We'll come into that briefly in just a second, but that's what happens when you have that type of possession. You're so spread out, you can have the ball. Look how high Brown, who are left wing backs, but almost playing as a winger. Windass and Smith so close to each other. Windass getting in behind. Smith holding up the ball, trying to feed it to Windass, who has more of the pace. Barry Bannon just above that centre circle. Picking up the ball from the back three, starting and playing brilliantly in transition. That's what Sheffield Wednesday are all about. They know exactly where each player's going to be, and they know the system like it's just on the back of their hand. They just do know that, and that's a really good place to be. In terms of the stats and in terms of the league position, 71 points now, Sheffield Wednesday after 32 games. They have got a game in hand and also a 3-point cushion. Of course, Plymouth got beaten 5-2 by Peterborough United. We'll touch on that game in Around the Grounds. 52% possession for Charlton, 48% when it comes to Sheffield Wednesday. A real big disparity there when it comes to, possession, but also you can see, looking at the shots and the opportunities, although less possession, only marginally, much better positionally, and a chance that were made as well. 17 shots, a complete. They demolished them in the end statistically, but not in the scoreline. The only piece of criticism you can give Sheffield Wednesday is they only won the game 1-0, but they won't care. They won't care whatsoever. A clean sheet as well is important. Let's go around the grounds to the other games. We have got lots of other games. Quite difficult to cram them into only 4 selected, but I'm quite busy with the Robinson situation. I only get to do 4 games, unfortunately, for you today. I do apologise for that, but we will touch on Peterborough United versus Plymouth. 5-2 for Plymouth. It's a very, very difficult afternoon. Peterborough United, though, 5 goals, definitely trying to get back into playoff contention. Dominant. The goals that were scored they were flying in. And how did Plymouth and why did this happen? It's quite difficult to sort of break down and understand. A penalty in the 16th minute. A really bad start. Did get it back to 2-1. But it was a really, really poor start and a really difficult game for Plymouth Argyle. I think they maybe got stunned. They got stunned a little bit. And we'll come on to that breakdown probably in the next couple of weeks. But statistically, you can see the amount of shots that they had. 90 shots to 13, although more possession. I think a lot of it was down to a clinical edge from Peterborough United. Very, very clinical. More big chances. I think being very clinical in the key moments was the big reason why they won that game. Let's move on to MK Dons versus Ipswich. A 1-0 result for Ipswich away from home. MK Dons continue to struggle. Ipswich a really important win. And with Plymouth slipping up now, is an opportunity for them to break into the top 2. Bolton 2, Port Vale 1. You can see the graph there as well. Really good result for Bolton Wanderers. Once again, continuing their winning form. They're doing a really good job right now, Bolton. And you can see. Have a little look at the league table. In fact, we'll come on to that right at the end. But you can see Bolton there did lose the last game, but generally the last 5 have been very, very good. They're still trying to push into the top 2 if possible. With Plymouth, like I said, slipping up, it's certainly possible. Forest Green Rovers 1, Lincoln City 1. Disappointing really from a Lincoln perspective, but Forest Green Rovers, first point on the door for Duncan Ferguson. I believe he might have got a draw. He certainly hasn't won a game, but it is a result for him. In the fact he got a point. They do look down and out, don't they? Unfortunately. Exeter City 2, Cambridge United 0. Cambridge looking to build off that really good result against Oxford United last week. Exeter said no chance. They've been struggling recently. Exeter turned up, scored a really, really good 2 goals and won it in the end fairly comfortably. Shrewsbury beating Wickham 2-0. Shrewsbury, really good form, then a quite shock defeat, and then a good result against, of course, Gareth Ainsworth's side, or what was Gareth Ainsworth's side. Of course, Bloomfield now has come in, winning that game 2-0. Not ideal for Bloomfield, who his first game in charge, but Shrewsbury, you can't deny they've got quality in that side. Although the last game wasn't great, the form before that showed there's certainly a level of confidence and quality with those players. And then, of course, finally, Fleetwood 1, Morecambe 0. Of course, Morecambe also in the bottom end of the table, losing their game. Fleetwood, though, I think what Scott Brown's done is a really, really effective job. He certainly has turned things around at Fleetwood Town. A good result for them, and you can see, the final game was Oxford United 0, Bristol Rovers 3. But let's sort of move on from that. doesn't matter. Almost doesn't feel necessary to touch on that once again. We can have a little look at the league table. Forest Green Rovers remain bottom of the table. The bottom four is made up of Accrington, MK Dons, Cambridge and Forest Green. And the top six is, of course, Sheffield Wednesday leading the way. Plymouth in second, Ipswich, Bolton, Barnsley and Derby. Of course, a couple of teams sort of breathing down the necks of those top six clubs. Wycombe, Shrewsbury, Peterborough United with a really good result against Plymouth. Our goal convincing 5-2. Didn't see that one coming. And of course, Pompey winning as well. But you'd say it's quite tight, it's quite close. The middle there is pretty open, but we've got a clear relegation bunch of candidates and a clear playoff candidates. Everyone else in the middle is sort of just comfortable and happy to be there. Well, not everyone's happy to be there, but they are there, whether they like it or not. That is the end of the roundup today. Quite a quick one. I do apologise, but like I said, I'm back home for the weekend, so I've sort of had a quick turnaround, and also Robinson being sacked has made the scheduling all over the shop. But there we go. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a very good weekend. Lots of content, of course, continue to come your way. It has been. The growth has been incredible. The support has been magnificent, and that's down to you as well, of course. Take care, and I'll see you all very, very soon. See you in a bit.